In the most certain moments, life often serves up surprises we could never imagine. Tonight, we take you to a small-town Waffle House, where an ordinary waitress, Ellina, experienced a night she'd never forget. It's a story of kindness, mystery, and the unexpected. So settle in for a tale that will warm your heart and leave you wondering what magic might be waiting in the most ordinary places. In a quiet Georgia town, the Waffle House glowed like a beacon in the early morning hours. The warm light spilling from its windows felt like a hug to anyone who passed by. Inside, the familiar rhythm of clinking dishes and sizzling grills filled the air, creating a sanctuary for night owls and wanderers alike. The scent of fresh coffee and golden waffles lingered in the air, a comforting aroma that welcomed anyone seeking refuge from the chilly night or the hustle of the day. At the center of this haven was Ellina, a waitress with a smile as warm as the waffles she served. Ellina had worked here for years. She knew every corner of the diner and every type of customer who walked through its doors: locals, truckers, students, and families. Her easy laugh and quick wit were as much a part of the diner as its syrup bottles and coffee mugs. Over time, she had become a fixture of the place, a friendly face that regulars relied on for their late-night fixes of comfort food and conversation. Ellina's life was simple but full. She had a small apartment down the street, just far enough to get a sense of separation, but close enough that she could always pop in for a coffee during breaks. Most nights, she enjoyed the routine. The familiar faces, the steady pace of orders coming in, the light chatter of people seeking solace in pancakes and hash browns. But sometimes, even in the most predictable places, life threw in a curveball just to remind you that nothing is truly ordinary. It was just after 2 a.m., and the diner was alive with its usual mix of characters. In one corner, college students laughed over plates of hash browns, their conversation a blur of sleep-deprived chatter. At the counter, a trucker sipped his coffee, resting from a long drive across the interstate. Ellina moved through it all with practiced ease, her tray balanced with a skill that came from years of practice. Her spirit seemed to light up the room, as if her mere presence made the clinking of plates and the sizzling of the grills more harmonious. It was a night like any other, until it wasn't. The bell above the door jingled, a familiar sound, but this time it felt different. A man stepped inside. His entrance was quiet, almost unnoticed, but there was something about him that caught Ellina's attention immediately. He wore a simple jacket and jeans, his face partially hidden beneath a baseball cap. Without a word, he slid into a corner booth. There was something about him, a presence that seemed both ordinary and extraordinary. It was as though he didn't belong in the night, yet at the same time, his quiet manner made him blend in perfectly. He seemed like he could be anyone, yet there was something in his demeanor that suggested he was someone who had been in the spotlight before, someone whose name might carry weight. Ellina, always ready to greet a new customer, approached the booth with her usual cheer. "What can I get for you tonight?" she asked, her pen poised over her notepad. The man looked up, his blue eyes meeting hers, and for a brief moment, Ellina felt a chill run down her spine. His eyes seemed to hold a story, something deep and untold, but his smile was warm. "The All-Star Special," he said with a slight smile, "and a side of grits." Ellina quickly wrote down the order, offering a friendly, "Coming right up," as she turned towards the kitchen. But as she walked away, she couldn't help but glance back. There was something about him, something that made her feel as though that she had just witnessed a fleeting moment of significance. As the man waited, the diner continued with its usual hum. Ellina served coffee, refilled syrup bottles, and exchanged jokes with the college students seated at the counter. But despite the distractions, she kept sneaking glances at the man in the corner booth. He sat with his back straight, looking around the diner occasionally, his hands folded neatly in front of him. He seemed at ease, but there was a mystery about him, as if he was carrying a story no one else knew. Perhaps it was the way he ordered his meal, simple, unassuming, but there was an air of quiet confidence about him that piqued her curiosity. The whispers started quietly. One of the college students, sitting at the counter with his friends, leaned toward them and whispered something in a hushed voice. Is that... he began, pointing subtly towards the man in the corner. Phones began appearing, and the group started searching for confirmation, their fingers flying across screens in a frenzy. A low murmur began to ripple through the diner as people began to speculate. "Is that really him?" one person asked, their voice barely a whisper. "No way!" another responded, their disbelief palpable. The hum of conversation grew louder as speculation spread like wildfire. Ellina, still working, couldn't help but feel the shift in energy. The air seemed to crackle with a new tension, a sense of something monumental unfolding in a place that had seen countless late-night conversations and forgotten stories. Ellina returned to the booth with a steaming plate of food, her heart still racing slightly from the growing whispers. "Here you go," she said with a smile, setting the plate in front of the man. She leaned in to pour syrup over the waffles, trying to maintain her composure. But as she did, her hand slipped. The syrup splashed over the edge of the plate, some of it landing on the man's jacket. For a split second, time seemed to stop. Ellina froze, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her voice rising in panic. The last thing she wanted was to ruin a customer's meal, especially someone who seemed as important as this man. For a moment, the diner went silent. All eyes turned towards the corner booth. Ellina's heart pounded as she fumbled for napkins, her mind racing with apologies and regrets. But then, something surprising happened. The man smiled. "It's all right," he said warmly, his voice calm and reassuring. "No harm done." His smile was genuine, and for some reason, it made Ellina feel instantly at ease. Ellina's nerves slowly eased as she let out a shaky laugh. "Well, if you need a recommendation for a dry cleaner, I can help with that," she joked, trying to lighten the mood. The man chuckled, his laugh light and genuine. "I might just take you up on that," he replied with a wink. But not everyone was as calm as Ellina. One of the college students stood abruptly, pointing towards the booth. "That's Donald Trump!" he blurted, his voice rising above the hum of conversation. The words hung in the air, and the diner erupted in a mixture of disbelief and excitement. People began whispering frantically, their eyes darting back and forth between the man and their phones, trying to confirm what they had just heard. Ellina's eyes widened as she finally recognized the man sitting in front of her. It was him, the former president, the businessman, the controversial figure. She froze for a moment, her mind reeling. Was it really him? And if so, why was he here in this quiet Waffle House in the middle of the night? As the weight of the moment sank in, Ellina felt a mix of emotions: shock, awe, and a touch of disbelief. But Trump, seemingly unbothered by the growing attention, remained calm. He reached for a napkin and began helping her clean the spill. "Don't worry," he said, his tone kind. "Sometimes the smallest mishaps make the best memories." His words were unexpectedly reassuring, and they helped bring a sense of calm back to the room. The tension in the diner began to ease. Ellina managed a small smile. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice steadying. Trump nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You're doing great," he said. "Places like this, and people like you, are what make this country special." His words, simple yet sincere, seemed to resonate with everyone in the room. The whispers softened, and the atmosphere shifted. Conversations resumed, but the energy was different. More connected, as if everyone present was a part of a secret they'd carry out into the world. The moment felt surreal. Ellina returned to her work, her heart still racing but her spirit uplifted. The diner buzzed with quiet excitement, the usual chatter now replaced with awe and admiration. Customers whispered about the unexpected guest, but no one disturbed him. It was as though the Waffle House had become a stage for an extraordinary moment of connection, one that transcended politics, fame, and the ordinary confines of a late-night diner. When Trump finally stood to leave, he reached into his pocket and left a generous tip on the table. It wasn't just any tip. It was an amount that left Ellina stunned, her hands trembling as she picked up the cash. She had seen tips before, but this one was different. Far more than she had ever expected. He turned to Ellina, his smile warm and genuine. "Thank you for the waffles," he said, "and for a laugh." As the bell above the door jingled and he disappeared into the night, Ellina stood frozen for a moment, replaying the events in her mind. The diner felt different now, as though it had been touched by something magical. She glanced at the table where he had sat, the empty plate and folded napkin, a reminder of the extraordinary night. It wasn't just the fame of the man who had visited her diner, it was the kindness, the unexpected connection that had occurred in that fleeting moment. Her co-workers gathered around her, their voices a mixture of astonishment and joy. "I can't believe it," one of them said, shaking their head. "That was incredible." Ellina smiled faintly, still processing the encounter. For a moment, she wondered if she had imagined it all, but the warmth of his words and the generosity of his gesture were undeniable. That night, as Ellina drove home, she thought about the man she had served. Not the fame or the fortune, but the kindness, the calm in the chaos, and the reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary people crave the simplest moments. And in those moments, we find the humanity that connects us all. She parked her car and sat for a while, gazing up at the stars. The vast sky seemed to echo the magic of the night. She thought about the conversation she'd had, the laughter shared, and the unexpected guest who reminded her that even in the smallest corners of the world, remarkable things could happen. Ellina's story reminds us that even in the humblest of places, extraordinary things can happen. What do you think about this incredible night at the Waffle House? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales.